What's happening? Benton here, pulling out of the truck stop. This is one of those tiny, teeny, tiny truck stops. I grabbed one of the last free parking spots yesterday evening. But I understood I was taking a risk because they almost blocked me in. Fortunately, a couple of guys uh, in front of, across from me left. Otherwise, I would not have been able to get out. Headed to Greensboro, North Carolina. I believe I'm in West Virginia at present, and pulling these heavy loads up and down these little hills. Always fun. LOL truck driving. I sat at the shipper yesterday for an entire hour while my dispatcher tried to figure out what my pickup number was. It's just it'll never cease to amaze me that we have all this technology. It's an information age, and I'm going to deliver loads, and I'm being sent. There's two different entrances on two sides of the building, and just somehow there's no way to know ahead of time, that I'm going to the wrong side of the building. Wasting 30 minutes. It's just impossible. In an information age, it's impossible to know ahead of time. Well, you need this specific 6-digit number. Or I need it, rather. I'm trying to break myself of that habit. The U. What's happening, everybody? Decided not to go aggressive out of the gate. Right when I got to the road here, I could have conceivably pulled out. Figured, wait our turn here. I'd like to save the aggressive maneuvers for when I really need them. If that makes sense. Give me just a moment. We'll get on this interstate. Yeah, here we go. Probably have to focus on the driving a little more than normal because of the hills and the heavy load. If I'm not paying enough attention, I may look down and I'll be going 85 down some hill. And I did not have a title, but I saw that the Yurt fellow has a live scheduled. And then I noticed that he said that Paul Unslaved is slated to co-host. And then I saw Paul had posted in the live chat that Paul won't be able to come until a few hours after the stream starts. So I offered my services. So hopefully Yurt will get this notification and pop over here at some point. I see Music Holds a Secret. Good to see you, Gary Baxter. Yeah, we don't go anywhere near Asheville, North Carolina, sir. I'll tell you why is because, I'm sure you know, that section of 40 is just god awful. And so in fact, I chose a route recently that went through Atlanta instead of going through that section of 40. Now, part of that was that the load was heavy. And give me a moment. For some reason, the traffic here mistakenly believes it must match my speed. Of course, that's because the guy's on TikTok. As he drives by, I can clearly see what he's doing. He's on his phone. And then I'm guessing that he's on TikTok. But I mean, realistically, what else would he be doing? So, 18-wheeler trying to get up to speed going down a mountain. But meanwhile, if I just went all the way up to 70, I would look over and he would just be right there beside me going 70. As it is, I'm going 45. He's barely up there ahead of me. because I am the flow of traffic. Now it's 45 with the flashers on. Meanwhile, this is West Virginia. These people don't, a lot of them haul fucking ass. And it's just, yeah. Let me get to that 20 grand so I can quit complaining about this traffic. I mean, because this is fucking clown shoes. Just the fact that people's brains work this way. But yeah, thanks, Gary. Also, with truck driving, I honestly, no offense to anybody, there's no time in the schedule for meeting up with people. Meeting up with people would be, you could come to my truck and that I live in, which probably, Lord only knows how bad this inside of this thing smells. You could come hang out with me for 45 minutes before I go to sleep. That's literally the extent of the amount of time I have. So I'm not trying to be a dick. And I can't eat meals with people because of my my various illnesses. I'm on an extremely strict diet, so I actually can't even eat food that someone else would provide. Yeah, and that, because I certainly can't risk being sick for 2 days. So yeah, I'm pretty much out of the. I'm basically out of normal life entirely, I would say. It's just I'm whatever a normal person would. Hey, I know this person through the internet, and they're going to be near my general vicinity, and let's do what normal people would do. It's like, no, probably not on the table with old Ben. Now, if I was driving around in my personal vehicle, that'd be a totally different situation as far as potentially meeting up with people. If you had truck driving, lives in the Phoenix area, I literally spent Christmas at a truck stop, the whole weekend at a truck stop in that area. It's like, it's basic. There's no point in even contacting her. It's like, I just happened to be in town. What now? We're gonna have Christmas together. Like, people's lives have changed. It's just people's lives are completely different now. Most people, there's just no physical space. They live in a physical space where there's no extra room. My father and my mother both have that situation, whereas, most of my early life up until probably I was 30 years old, my parents both, they either together lived in a large house or separately lived in a large house or separately lived in large houses. That just over time has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller to where now my mom lives where there's no extra room. My dad lives in a 1-bedroom apartment, as far as I know. I haven't been to his new place yet. I'm not sure what my sister's domestic situation would have been in Phoenix, and by the way, I have no interest. I have no interest in going into people's houses, whoever it may be. That's like their world, and with the isolation, the social isolation, it's just, people's homes are not inviting anymore. They're really, for the most part. And I'm not talking about Gary. I just mean in general. It's not, I feel like that was more of a thing of the past where people sort of fostered these, an environment in their homes where they could entertain guests potentially. And I understand the live chats. It's going to be a bunch of people talking about how they maintain guest quarters. Like, yeah, I understand there's exceptions. I'm talking generally. Well, this is fraught with peril. West Virginia is the only state I've ever seen do this. Put the interstate under construction and then put stop signs at the end of all the on-ramps while there's 2 concrete walls. It's just absurdly dangerous. I'm sure other states do that, but West Virginia is the main one I've seen do that. So apologies, folks. The driving is technical to the point where I'm not really able to look at the phone at all. I get a kick out of that. Be safe. It's like, well, the only way I can be safe is to quit this job and never drive a truck again, because ain't nothing safe about this. I mean, nothing. It's fraught with peril at every turn, to be sure. And Z's about to go live. If anybody wants to check him out, Zetetic Warrior. I believe it's at Zetetic Warrior 2139. I believe. Somebody had asked me what his channel was, so I looked it up. But yeah, no, I appreciate the sentiment though, Gary. Thank you. I appreciate it. You know, it's the thought that counts, right? So it's the same thing with my sister. It was like, okay, what are they going to come to the truck stop? You know, and hang out with me for 2 hours? Like, it just seems pointless. It's like I live in a truck. And for me, psychologically, the easiest way or the most effective way to do this job is, yeah, I'm not from here, bro. I don't know why you're creeping up on my right there, buddy. I'll happily get out of your way, but I ain't from here, man. I don't know these lanes. I don't know that the 2-lane walled-in construction zone dumps out into a 3-lane, 70 miles an hour. You got to give me a second to figure it out, Bubba. Meanwhile, I'm pretty sure going into the hammer lane is just as illegal as passing on the right. So I don't do much passing on the right, in case you're curious. Yeah, that's interesting, Moose. In fact, I think I may have been the first one to notice that, and I know I'm feel fairly certain I'm the first one to notice, first live streamer to notice it and comment on it. Well, Z was in that time slot first, but then Z disappeared, right? But the reality is, you know, when Z comes back and a couple of days in, he's doubling, you know, more or less doubling OTW's, you know, best numbers. You know, that's the person that that is their time slot as far as I'm concerned. So this is Z's time slot. So I realize that I'm going live in his time slot. See, I really do view it that way. Now I know not everybody looks at things that way, and that's why I say to folks, number one, I look at the 11 folks here, and I'm not offended. You know, number two, I'm like, yeah, Z's live. Go check him out. You know, I'd rather folks be over there if they prefer, you know, his broadcast, because this is a niche deal. You know, other than when the drama really pops off, and then maybe there's like 65 people in here, but you know, that's not typically me doing 3.5 hours solo, right? So the top end for me, just jibber jabber, seems to be around 40 to 50. Yeah, slow down to enter the interstate. That's great. This is how I know they don't teach people how to drive anymore, by the way. When I was young, they taught us the proper way to merge onto the interstate. Like, I was formally instructed on how to enter an interstate. And at no point did they say slow down as you merge into the interstate. In fact, it was the opposite. I'm 100% certain that people are no longer taught how to drive. But we got plenty of time to make the 11:30 a.m. delivery, so I guess I'll just cruise, not even worry about it. Shout out to the chat. And then what about this bozo toilet bowl Earth? You know, coming over here and giving me the business for so long, especially about, you know, trying to say that, you know, I got to pick a daddy between Paul and, you know, Drew. Meanwhile, when me and Drew had our falling out, that was kind of the theme was, you know, that was part of the theme was, well, Larry Benton's a big, mean, tough son of a bitch. And, you know, he could, when he was 40, he could smash out. He would have physically been able to smash out Drew and Paul simultaneously. So obviously, that was my father. So I'm not going to be able to take on a secondary father to that, right? Versus these Brian O'Shea's and these loser failures, you know, I'm starting to include Lou Bass in that, as much as I like his personality. You know, I think Paul's been made fun of for calling himself daddy, but, you know, it's seeming like it's a real thing to a lot of these folks. So, I've got Toilet Bowl Earth giving me shit for months on end. Next thing you know, there he is hanging out with Daddy. He's been on Paul's panel like 2 days in a row, which, look, that's fine. I don't care what people do, but it's like, I'm just looking at this like, what the fuck is this guy doing? But wants to call me a hypocrite. Okay, buddy. And I called it months ago. I need to start clipping my own live stream, I need to start making my own notes so that I could go back and find the footage where I said, who even knows what live stream it was on, but somewhere I said on the official record, I said, Paul will win the CBO crew over. If they keep interacting with him, he will win them over. And I told that to them. They're like, oh no, never, never. Well, we see it happening, do we not? But what could Benton possibly know? What could I possibly know about it? Oh, I don't. Yeah, I don't. A lot of the me and Toilet Bowl Earth stuff it really just comes down to a personality conflict. Not everybody's personalities are compatible, right? But I don't have any ill will, and I actually have a lot of positive feelings towards TBE, believe it or not. And I don't know that folks understand that there's a whole backstory where me, Toilet Bowl Earth, and Toilet Bowl Earth's now wife, before they started dating, we've spent a lot of time together on the old Chalk Body Outline Discord, and just the three of us, like a lot of time. So there is something of a universal friendship there, or at least there was, right? So we do know each other fairly well to some extent. I don't. I think we both realized that this just never going to happen. We're just never going to be able to get along, and it's just not a thing that can happen. Thanks, Moose. Appreciate it. Yeah, and that's the thing with O'Shea is like until he, and I can't speak for O'Shea, so I'm actually speaking from my own experience. Like, and this whole thing where Antoine is trying to, because let's face the reality that, O'Shea is, regardless of, the fact is okay, let me, hang on. Give me a moment to gather my thoughts here. When O'Shea talks about all this poker stuff, like he's not wrong, intellectually, right? Like this factually, he is correct. The thing is, though, we get into some, what is the person's actual motivations? Then, is the person deluding themselves about why they're drawn to doing this? And it is a fantasy on some level. It is a lottery ticket on some level. The idea of, because the fact is, if investors put him into the main event of the World Series of Poker, there's only two ways for him to get his hands on a lot of money in the short term would be for him to screw over the investors, and even then he's going to end up getting taken to court. And that's what happened with Jamie Gold, right? Jamie Gold tried to screw over the person that, paid for part of his entry into the main event. So he's going to have to win the whole fucking thing to have any amount of money. Yeah, swinger wide, country boy. Also funny when people think they need to first turn to the left before they make a right turn. That's always amusing. Let me check in with the GPS, make sure I haven't missed any turns yet. No, I think we're still good. Voice road sucks. I see why this is under construction. But good Lord. Apologies for the dead air there. I'm having to assess the assessing the driving situation here. So when O'Shea goes on with Anton, number one, like, and this is what I wanted to talk to Yurt about. And in fact, if I had more time in my schedule, uh, the reality is just making time to do these live streams is tough, honestly. But I'm a big boy. I enjoy putting forth the effort. But I know Yurt's watching like this Sky. Now, Flow State that was the icing on the cake. Because I happened to watch the replay of Paul. Paul was playing Flow State's appearance on Anton, and I mean, dude, who are these people? By the way, like, did y'all see this? And look, I'm not putting myself up here as like I'm some moral, like I'm some righteous, fucking perfect person. But this is when I talk about when I say I'm better than some folks. I'm better than Flow State in some ways. I am morally superior to Flow State. At no point in my life have I ever fallen to these levels that Flow State just went on Anton's broadcast and starts airing out his dirty laundry. Like, I've never done anything in my life as morally repugnant as Flow State was speaking on. I mean, who are these people? Shout out to Mitchell, who's pointed out, who continues to point out, just who these people are, right? So I understand some of the time when he's getting annoyed at me and he's sort of implying that there's been times when Mitchell's been trying to say things about me that in fact just aren't true, right? Where I'm pushing back a little bit on him, and then, at various times Mitchell, and I know my point's a little convoluted here, but Mitchell's basically like more or less saying that a lot of the people that inhabit these panels are just fucking trash, man. Flow State's a piece of garbage, right? Now he has. I'm assuming he's not beyond redemption. So when I say this, I'm not saying like there's nothing redeemable about his character. I'm saying if you assess his character, he's a loser failure. Meanwhile, he's going on the metaverse and he's communicating like with a confidence and like a bearing, right? Like he's holding himself as if he's some press on the gas. Press on the gas. Sorry guys, I just there's only so much of this I can take. Like, I mean, realistically, I can only take so much of these people. And I apologize for yelling into the mic, but it's like, here we are, side by side, and I'm going 45, and they're going 45, and their lane's ending, and they're about to crash into a wall, and they're just sitting there with their blinker on. Like, I can't speed up. I can't stop in the middle of the interstate. Like, but your car has a gas pedal. Not yours, sorry. Their car has a gas pedal. All they have to do is press on the gas pedal. And even if I press on my diesel fuel pedal, no matter what happens, they will still be able to get in front of me. Right? Like, how is it 2023 and we don't know this? Like, the people have degraded. Like, what human beings were 30 years ago and what they are today are very different things. Almost nobody behaved this way. And now it's just like the status quo. Like, this is just normal now that people are this way. It's like, oh, big rig, let's freeze. It's like, well, wait a minute. The big rig's going 45 and I'm in a car that can easily out accelerate the big rig. So, like, how do people not know this? I don't understand. So again, that's why I am not willing to tolerate any of this. People are waking up. Okay, well, let me know when they wake up enough to realize that when they're side by side with the big rig at 45 miles an hour and there's a wall up ahead, let me know when they've woken up to the fact that they can just stomp on the gas pedal. So when we get to that point, maybe I'll be willing to entertain these notions of people waking up and coming together in a kumbaya moment and fixing the dystopia. Right. Until that happens, you'll forgive me. I'll be over on the side, waiting patiently. Right. I mean, I guess I should have just stopped in the interstate and caused a gigantic pileup. I guess that's what I should have done, right? But instead, now he's yelling at traffic. Yeah, well, okay. It's either that or stop in the interstate. Which one would you prefer? And then the air horn, that just makes them freeze even more, right? Like a deer in the headlight. So just imagine existing in a state of total fear 100% of the time. I mean, that's where these people are, man. They're in a state of fear 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days. It's just complete fear space. But then also, by the way, so it's a 100% fear space combined with toxic positivity, always looking on the bright side, so much so that if someone, just some random person from the streets, not like a homeless person, but just some random citizen just happened to be in the passenger seat and then witnessed all of that, and then I had a conversation with them, all they would do was use toxic positivity to look on the bright side and try to explain all the valid reasons why that person behaved in that way. So like nothing is anybody's fault, right? So there's no accountability. So it's this sick combination. I'm not here for it, man. And I apologize for yelling into the microphone. I'll try to get a hold of myself. But it's just, I just can't even. So it's like I know these things, but part of me, I'm just not sure that part of me will ever be able to fully accept that that's how people are. It's just, I don't even know, man. What's up, London man? Good to see you. Yeah, but and again, Moose, this is, part of the problem is that I have a memory and I'm so visual, and my brain works on pattern recognition among other things. So I have memories from when I was from 1990 of traffic patterns, and people did not used to be like this. Now we can blame some of it on phone, sure, some of it, but not all of it. Like your average knuckle dragging bozo in Southeast Arkansas in 1990, the idea of somebody slowing down to enter the interstate and then just riding side by side with a big rig with all this open space and then potentially crashing into a wall, like that would have been considered insane. Now it's just normal. Like, oh yeah, of course this is how people are. That's what I'm getting at. So I know that those are the same people when some random truther goes, yeah, people are waking up, and I still hear it. Well, I'm like, okay, but get in this big rig and let's observe these people that you say are waking up. Let's watch how they behave. And then you tell me that they're waking up. It's like, no, they're not waking up. That's you having hope in your heart, which is normal because, not you, sorry. That's them having hope in their heart because they're a human. But the reality is that being a human being who has hope in their heart is in no way connected to the boots on the ground reality of how people behave in the real world. And I can make I can use deductive reasoning to make very accurate assessments of these people's psychology by observing their real world actions. And these are not the people who are waking up. So no, waking up is not a thing. So, but who wants to wake up, by the way? What truther wants to, quote, wake up every morning? Now, this is irony, by the way. Who wants to have their grand rising every day and then accept reality, the reality that these people cannot wake up. That's not a thing that can possibly happen. Not on a mass scale, anyway. So I understand that's not a desirable thing to face every day. But then how is a community going to literally call itself truther, but then not face the truth of where the general public is at the level of their psychology and their complete and total inability to reason for themselves? And that's, at some point during the fake pandemic, because I have this, because correct philosophy is the absence of incorrect philosophy. And many years ago, I realized that, okay, if I'm going to be effective and if I'm going to be able to not go literally insane and end up medicated in the mental health system, Benton must enact a rule of never bullshitting myself. I've had no choice but to realize at a certain point during the fake pandemic, oh, these people aren't even processing data anymore. Like they're not processing data. It's just is it just, I guess they're acting on instinct, presumably. Like a computer takes in input, processes the input, and then delivers an output. Like people used to be like that. That's no longer the case on a mass scale. That's not a thing that's happening anymore. Individually, sure. Some individuals, sure. Not on a mass scale. It's not happening. Well, and that's funny. Terry Miller says it's being awakened is not necessarily a happier condition. Uh, I have a lot of thoughts on happiness in general, but number one, uh, if you rated the masses with respect to happiness, that's not a thing, right? So I'm not willing to accept this idea. The reality is, if you look at the percentage of adults on psych meds, mood altering psychotropic, like happiness is not a thing. So really what we're talking about is degrees of misery, right? So if a person's already in a state of misery, do now we get into and I think Z just now went live, or I just got the notification. So if anybody wants to head over there, I will not be offended. Uh, Go check him out. Yeah, going through the motions. That's right. Uh, and I think you folks know what I'm saying, so I don't feel like I need to continue to hammer the point. But I also think that's, now we're back to the toxic positivity. Like we're always, and I think this is part of the mind control. It seems like most people are always looking at, you know, be the change you want to see in the world to make the world a better place. Well, better implies that it's good. So to me, that's the opposite of reality. Reality is, no, it's a fallen realm. It's most likely a literal hell realm. It's not about making it slightly better. It's about potentially making it slightly less hellish. But it's this constant, this almost like a psychopathic need to always look on the bright side no matter what, which is delusion. That is a delusional state. So of course the general public is on mood altering pharmaceutical drugs. Like, of course they are. How could they not be? How else to deal with these levels of, cognitive dissonance and emotional disturbance? You know, how else, right? What's up, JT? Good to see you. Yep. Have a good night. Thanks for checking in. Yeah, those who laugh just haven't heard the bad news. Yeah. Well, and see, I don't even see it as competition personally because when I solo, like I say, it's, you know, especially with no video, if it's just an icon and audio, like this is pretty limited regardless of who is live. See, uh, you know, only under extenuating circumstances would I be going live uh, and paneling, or videoing or whatever. But then apparently Yurt's going live in like an hour, I believe, less than an hour. And if anybody remembers, before Z took his hiatus, uh, I was going live at like 2 a.m. and then there were times when I was still live when he went live. So I'm pretty accustomed to that crossover, actually. Well, I'm not even saying that. I'm more talking about there is a dynamic, Moose, as far as uh, I'm looking at it more from a collaborative, get in where we fit in aspect. Like, because I think there is a benefit in the games going to go. So, like, when Z does get pushed out into the algorithm, if somebody sees that there's 100 people live, I think that does bring in more new people than if he's got 60 people. So if I'm living my best life and I'm over here, you know, pulling out all the stops, and I've got 45 to 50 people, that is going to take the top off of what he can do over there, right? He'll still have a bigger audience most likely, but his live numbers will take a fucking haircut. Same thing with Paul. Like that happens to Paul sometimes, where it's like, yeah, Paul might be able to pull 160, but somebody's gave him a haircut. Now he's down to 125 or 130, and there is a dynamic where if if the stream gets pushed out to a potential new viewer, they may be more inclined to actually check it out based on how many are in the live, right? So that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about like a lack, like an abundance mindset versus a lack mindset. I'm not even talking about that. Uh, I'm more talking about working together type of thing. Yeah, absolutely. So that's what I'm saying is, if some of us view ourselves as more or less in the same group as far as a loose knit community, I think it's better for everybody if the bigger broadcasts do as well as they can. It's like a rising tide lifts all ships type of thing. That's the way I look at it. And then I think that's also, in the long run, that's better. That's also better for the bigger broadcasts if the smaller broadcasts understand the dynamics. Like, and back to the O'Shea stuff, I don't feel like O'Shea really understands the dynamics at play. And then he does seem to be quite oblivious. But I find it humorous, and this, and I will use O'Shea as an example of this. What I've talked about is an externalization versus an internalization. So O'Shea wants to seem to receive credit for having studied these various, Eastern philosophies and these various spiritual ideas, and then, you know, these various meditative, aspects and such. He seems to want to, be involved in some of that, right? Oh, is this a toll road? I had no idea. I don't know, bro. Are you going to pass me or not? Or are we just going to ride side by side like a bunch of bozos? Because you're the one that rolled up on me, partner. I didn't roll up on you, so I kind of feel like you're obligated to go around me there, partner. Or you could have just stayed back where you were. Sorry, not you, him. Of course, he's a hotshot driver, a pickup truck pulling a flatbed. So, if he was a real truck driver, he'd be in a big rig, to be honest. Let's be serious. We know where his head's at. So this, I was trying to cover this earlier about Anton, sort of taking Brian O'Shea to task. Well, if Brian was practicing a lot of these, philosophies and these spiritual ideas, if he had any experience practicing them, I believe he would have already taken ownership of the ideas that Anton was putting forth, right? As we come to, I guess we're coming to a complete stop for the toll plaza here. Jeez. Dude, I got like inches on each side coming through here. Fun. That's like the friggin' old school, like Godfather toll booth, when Sonny got gunned down. Yeah, it does sound like a metronome. What's up, Razvan? So, I'm watching this replay of O'Shea on Anton. Anton's challenging, O'Shea about the living in the car, no money, doesn't have a real job, which is, by the way, which is fine. It's not that O'Shea doesn't have a job. It's not even really that he's living in this car. See, it's that he does seem to be somewhat in a delusional state, with respect to, not even really understanding that an outside observer might just be like, hey man, like what the fuck is going on with your life, Mr. O'Shea? Meanwhile, I don't care because it's not my concern, rather, how people choose to live. That's on him. So it's like, my thing is, yeah, do you. I lived out of a backpack and, did what I did for all those years, but I wasn't in delusion. O'Shea does seem to be in a state of delusion. So, like when Anton's challenging him on this basis, you can see the delusion because O'Shea's either wanting to change the subject or just, he's avoiding facing up to the reality versus, owning it. Number one, owning it to the level where he would realize, to the outside observer, such as a financially successful black man who earns money as a broadcaster on YouTube is going to, and then also being able to put himself, to see things from another person's perspective, right? It makes total sense that Anton is viewing these things the way he's viewing them. That doesn't mean that Anton is right, it doesn't mean that O'Shea's living wrong. It says a lot of things about O'Shea, where O'Shea is at in his, you know, journey of progression philosophically and spiritually. He's not very far along. I think that's obvious, which is fine, by the way. I don't have a problem with that. My thing is, okay, well, I'm demonstrating, as far as I can tell, I'm demonstrating an understanding of these various, you know, philosophies and spiritual concepts, precepts, and I'm not speaking on things I've read in books. I'm speaking from my personal experience, and I first read about things in books, and then I went out and lived it, and then I that's how I understand the material. And meanwhile, we know we can never get to where we're trying to go just through the intellect, right? Well, I read that in a book somewhere, but then I went out and put it into practice. And so I proved it to myself by living it, right? You know, yippee skippy yay for Benton. Well, yeah, I mean, on some level, I do, you know, the benefits do accrue to me, right? So yeah, I'm better than O'Shea when it comes to this walk and this practice. But that doesn't mean that he won't get there eventually. But it means right now, at this point in time, I am farther along, which that is a superiority. But meanwhile, he comes on a broadcast with me and he talks to me as if he's on my level or maybe even on a higher level when he's not on my level. You know, like, what even is this? But I expect it. And, you know, not that I'm putting myself up as some sort of ascended master, because I'm certainly not that. As you can see, I yelled at the traffic. You know, I certainly fall victim to my you know, more base desires at times, my emotions, my very strong emotions, and old man crankiness. But that externalization, you know, putting those efforts out into the world instead of turning all of those energies inward, which is the only way to ever learn how to practice all this stuff. And there's no shortcuts. There's absolutely no shortcuts. Meanwhile, almost anybody with half a brain can learn things intellectually a good enough like Talcott to be able to talk, which has nothing to do with the person's ability, which has almost nothing to do with the person's ability to walk the walk. Yeah, that's your lane, car. I'm not allowed in that lane. Have at it. People are allergic to the far left lane for some reason. Some people are will almost basically will never go into the far left lane under any circumstance, which I find amusing. Well, when I say get on my level, that implies going up. See, Razvan. So if those levels are beneath me, I can only descend onto. You know, I can't really get on those levels. I can go down into, but I can't really climb up. Again, not that I'm so great. And at a certain point, this is where I got to with my dad, because my dad, like Talcott, he gets his feelings hurt very easily, you know, because of ego. Man, this sucks. I hate these hill climbs, man. I'm earning my money today. This shit sucks. And these trucks are geared so fucking horrible that, see, I just passed this truck, but I'm going 37, and now he's could probably pass me back because he's got better gears. Let's just fucking clown shoot. So I certainly understand Paul's frustration with the what he refers to as the loser failures. So sometimes people, when they first go on his panel, he calls them a loser failure, and they get offended. But it's like he's almost always right. You know, I think he's just playing the odds at a certain point. Meanwhile, I don't. I know I'm not a loser failure, but it's not a high bar to cross either, is it? Like, just having a fucking job, I'm ahead of a lot of these folks. Crazy, man. And then it's funny to see somebody like Scott, who would expect to be treated a certain type of way, on Paul's broadcast, but then, this is why, by the way, I've talked about everybody always reveals themselves. So it's like, yeah, Paul knows just to wait. I can't speak for Paul, but it seems to me like Paul, with somebody like Scott, knows just to wait a few months. And oh, look, it turns out Scott is more or less exactly what we thought he was. A fucking loser failure. And if anybody caught the part where Scott's talking about getting these charges for, burglary for breaking into his own house or whatever, well, that's not a thing. He's in denial about his own criminal activity. Uh, you know, Lord only knows what his rap sheet looks like. I mean, it's farcical. But anyway, if Yurt shows up in the live chat, let me know. His stream if he goes live and needs a co-host, because I'm fascinated by this stuff going. Because Anton's really helping to reveal some of these folks. For the it's a lot of personality disorders. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of folks with personality disorders, and this stuff with flow state, and then him getting raided, and then did anybody hear the part where he said he had to forfeit $120,000 in guns? Like, that sounds like a fucking Fed to me, or somebody under mind control, right? It sounds like some David Koresh type shit, who, as we know, was most likely a fucking federal agent, whether he knew it or not. Maybe he was just under mind control and didn't know that he was a federal agent. I mean, you can call it Holly weirdo all you want, Razvan. The reality is, none of these people have ever done anything in when you talk about Hollywood, we're talking about Southern California. Like, dude, people who've done anything, because I've spent a lot of time in Southern California. I don't know if you know this, Razvan. People who've had any measure of success in Southern California, they don't live in cars and they don't get criminal charges for breaking into their mama's house. So you can call it that all you want. They're not in that world. Now, maybe they're adjacent to that world, right? But they're not in that world. And that's part of the reason why Scott drops these names. Because if you've known people, if you've ever been around people who actually do run in those circles, they don't do a lot of name dropping. Now, they will mention certain people in certain, they don't look for opportunities to, almost as a non sequitur, bring up famous people. It's just not a thing that happens. And in fact, in Southern California, that's considered like, it's really like a faux pas socially to do that. In fact, I've said this before, and I was in Isla Vista, California, and there's a co-op there, right? Like a crunchy fucking hippy dippy health food store, and I would go in there with my food stamps in the morning, a lot of days. And 2 days in a row, I went in there, and sitting out front at the table was either Brad Pitt or Brad Pitt's brother. It was either Brad Pitt or it was his brother. Now, maybe it was his brother. I don't know. Because I'm pretty sure he's got a brother that looks a lot like him. But in Southern California, if somebody in Southern Californian culture is just minding their own business and there's Brad Pitt at the co-op in Isla Vista at 6 o'clock in the morning, nobody's bothering him. Everybody just minds their business. That's the culture in Southern California. So all I know is 2 days in a row, I walked right past either Brad Pitt or Brad Pitt's brother, and I didn't say a fucking word because I understand the culture on some level. Like, hey, we leave these people alone. We don't go around name dropping. When I saw Michael Rappaport in the Starbucks, nobody said a fucking word to him. Maybe somebody was like, "Hey man, what's up?" And then like after he left, like me and another guy who I don't think either one of us was from Southern California, we just kind of had a little bit of a chat about Michael Rappaport, right? Like, there's a culture of not bothering these people and not name dropping for the most part. Now here's some box truck who's not going to let me pass them, but they're forcing me to slow down to 50. But they're not going to let me pass them. This is what I mean by people driving, like slowing down to enter the interstate. And now I'm just stuck going 55. But then if I try to pass him, he was never going to allow it. It's just not a thing that can happen. So I understand why where very few people are willing to do this job I'm doing. Very few people could do this all day, every day. Bear with me, folks. I'm trying to figure out if this guy's really just going 50 or if he. Yeah, see, he's bullshit. Like, what's the point of going so slow just because the person just now got on the interstate, so they go slow as fuck? What is that? But then they're gonna speed up. I don't get it. It makes no sense. I don't understand. I don't know if you know this, Gary Baxter. Michael Rappaport's a big motherfucker who could probably beat me up. That's a big dude. It's funny, we see these people on TV and we don't realize just how some of these people are gigantic. It's a big motherfucker. He's like 6'4" and broad shouldered. It's a big guy. He's like 6'4", 250. Yeah, it's no thanks. I talk about my dad being big. Michael Rappaport, he isn't quite as bulky as my dad, but he's fucking bigger than my dad, who's a big dude. I mean, also, I'm not gonna, and I know you're being facetious, also, but yeah, like don't just assume because you disagree with Rappaport, you think he comes across a certain kind of way. Don't just assume you could kick his ass. That's not necessarily the case. Well, yeah, that's the thing about those politicians. They're all very charming. Like almost all of them are extremely charming people. Yeah. Well, Dukakis was pretty fucking famous at the time, I would say. He certainly was famous when he ran for president. I didn't know hardly anything about politics back then, and I'd heard of Dukakis. All right, we're finally going to hammer down and try to pass this guy, and it's going to be hilarious because he's just not going to allow it. Because he's more or less just driving whatever speed I'm driving. But we'll see what happens. You never know. We might get lucky. Yeah, we actually passed it. Amazing. Although I see that it's got that vehicle has some numbers written on the window, like they bought it at an auction maybe, and whoever's driving it may not be used to driving that type of vehicle. That's probably what it is. He was going 50, now I'm going 70, and he's trying to keep up with. What I'm talking about. Making me drive. Doesn't he know I'm trying to do a live stream? Yeah, there he is, right there behind me. Why wouldn't he be? People are nuts, man. I don't think so. I don't think Kim's ever getting unbanned. Yeah, he showed himself. He showed his true colors. The thing about Kim is when he's in, and I don't know if he's got a personality disorder. Oh, my dad could kick. Yeah, he could absolutely kick Rappaport's ass. Yeah, certainly. But they're like in the same weight class. I'm, you know, even at the height of my fucking weightlifting, like Rappaport was still a much larger person than me. And size does matter to some extent. Let's be honest. But yeah, Kim, when he's in his good phase, whatever that is, like if I could, and you can't separate the good from the bad, or the bad from the good. So, am I buying things? What's going on here? Oh, okay, never mind. Hypothetically, I'm getting paid today, but if I get unlucky, they're going to mail a check to my mom's house that I'll be lucky to even be able to intercept before it's, most of those checks I guess are good for like 90 days. I'll be lucky to get to it before it's. And I understand people are immediately going into problem solving. Well, have your mom mail it to you. No, I don't have a place to have things mailed. And my brain works like your brain, so if you can figure out the problem solving, I probably already thought about it, ruled it out, most likely. But I understand our brains go into problem solving. I realize that. Now, if I needed the money, I would have to just make a special trip. But because I have a very small savings, I'm not dependent on that money in the short term. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Kim's not getting unblocked. He's revealed a little too much about himself, as far as I'm concerned. But some amount of just trolling the host is okay. I think it keeps me humble, right? Uh, but this is just too. I think with him when he goes dark, I think he's probably pretty fucking dark. Uh, I mean, look, and I try not to judge people. Yeah, here he comes. He's gonna pass me. The friggin' box truck's gonna pass me. Fuck you, buddy. This is just what is wrong with people? He almost tried to run me off the road. Why did you let me pass you? This is just insanity. What is wrong with these people? No idea how to drive. That's one thing I do as a truck driver. If I pass somebody, I almost never will pass another truck unless I'm almost certain I'll be able to stay in front of them. Because this thing where we just pass each other 10 times, like, why? How about just don't let me pass? Bro, you were going 50. Now he's like, I'm holding him back or something. I hate people, man. I really do. I fucking hate people. And then I can slow down and let him pass me, and then it'll just be the same thing again. He'll be going 50 again. Or I can go 69 in a 60 with him right up my ass. What is wrong with these people? But left to his own devices, he was going 50. Crazy. Anyway, apologies. Oh yeah, man. I do pretty good with the traffic. Although this is part of the reason why I like to drive overnight, because I typically from like midnight to almost damn near 6 a.m. in most places. It's the only real frustration is the drunks trying to ride 10 feet off the bumper of the trailer. Thank God that little box truck finally exited. Thanks. Good to see you, Bern. I caught a little bit of you on EBT when I first woke up. Good stuff. Yeah, Gary Baxter. I can't get involved in the damaging other people's property and such, but I hear you, man. Fortunately, I have no desire to do anything to anybody, but it's nuts, man. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, night driving. Well, on this job, I'm going to keep doing this job enough to get a chunk of money saved up. But I think in the long term, if I'm going to truck drive, it's going to have to be some sort of night job. This is already way too much daytime. And see, this is what I mean by the people's driving. See, I'm driving an 18 wheeler. They're driving a car, but because they are observing me, they're now driving their car like it's an 18 wheeler. Now they finally realize, oh, I can just go fast up a hill. But meanwhile, I can't go fast up a hill. But it's like all of a sudden, all the cars they go slow up hills. Like, what is this, man? It's bizarro. I do flip some birds though. I will say that I flip some birds. Like why am I going 65 up a hill and why are these people right beside me? Very strange. Again, they don't teach people how to drive. I was formally instructed to stay the fuck away from big rigs when I learned how to drive. Any word from Yurt yet? Anybody seen Yurt? What's up, Tommy? Good to see you. Now we got vehicles that could easily pass me, choosing to follow me up a hill with a wide open passing lane. Oh, the flashers, if they figured it out that I'm a slow moving vehicle because I put my flashers on. Oh, they're on their phones, of course. Both the driver and the passenger. Like, yeah, you're in the mountains, past the big rig. There's no reason to stay behind the big rig up the mountain. Yeah, that XRP, man, I dropped the ball on that. I got some homeless person gave me. I don't know anything about it, but they called it an airdrop, whatever that is. So I'm pretty sure that indicates that it was very early on in the process when XRP was being rolled out, and he sent me 10,000 XRP, and then the way it worked at the time, it seemed like he got some kind of bonus for doing that. I don't really know how it worked, and I just was an irresponsible homeless person at the time, and although I'm sure I have I could have figured out how to keep up with the wallet information over time. I just failed to do so. So I don't know what 10,000 XRP is worth, but sure it's worth something. Several thousand, I'm assuming. Yeah, 50 cents. So yeah, five grand. See, a homeless guy gave me what later became $5,000. Couldn't be bothered to keep up with it. Well, of course, it was effectively worthless at the time. Right? That was the thing, is it had effectively a $0 value at the time. Yeah, 5K exactly. And I had a feeling because he seemed to really know what he was talking about. So intuitively, I felt like he was right that it was going to be a big deal at some point in the future. I guess I had other concerns and didn't bother to focus myself enough to keep up with it. Oh, I'm in West Virginia, Tommy, just so you know. Now, don't ask me where I am. All I can tell you is I'm on, I think, I-64, and I'm about to be on I-77, apparently. That's all I know. Other than that, I have no fucking clue where I'm at. Spent last night at the TA in Hurricane, West Virginia, wherever that is. Yeah, near where the economy is dead. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure that's right, Tommy. So I guess I have some idea where I'm at. Yeah, dog poop. Yeah, man, I don't want to go off on a dog rant, so I have thoughts, but I'll keep them to myself at this point. Let's see if I can restrict myself just to the humans. Uh, the people who more or less just let the dogs crap all over the house, peace and sheet, as a Resman might say, who just more or less allow it to happen. It's always I found to be interesting. Oh, by the way, my sense of smell is returning, or has. I would say it has returned for the most part. You want to talk about long COVID, dude? I lost my sense of smell like 2 years ago now, and like now, I just within like the last week, I can. I didn't. I had no idea how bad my feet were smelling. So I'm just gonna assume they've smelled that way the entire time. Although my shoes don't smell that bad, so I guess maybe my socks. And I know I'm not trying to be gross here, but let's just instead of being given a lot of details, just take my word for it if you would. That my sense of smell. Hey, all right, Yurt's live. Let me go. Can somebody let me know when he drops a link, if you would, or has he already? The I can't do all that while I'm driving these type of roads. Somebody please check and see if there's a StreamYard link, and I'll just if there is, I'll go ahead and see if Yurt will let me on with him. The channel, by the way, at NA Thought Experiment. I believe he just went live. I got the note. Yes, he's live.